Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Everyone has their fears, but we are not afraid of subtitles. Before we get into it, fair warning, these discussions will include spoilers and language which may not be suitable for all listeners. Let's move on to our first segment, Mom and Mac Chat.
And it's been a while. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
Hi, Mom. I would say it's actually going pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah. I had a long week last week, just half and half being at work and half not. But then Friday was one of the biggest days of our year because we're always crazy at the start of the month, which was delayed because of New Year's. And then it's the end of year. So December sales plus 2024 sales, because I do sales reports. And it's by the end of the day, I was just I'm so glad it's the weekend.
Yeah.
But also glad that that's over. It's all should be smoother sailing here.
That's good. Yeah. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Well, it's already the 4th, so it's not that new anymore.
That's pretty new. It's still single digit.
That's a good point.
It would be rounded down.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yep. After tomorrow, though.
No, it's basically December, and you've got no time left, WOHOs. No time to do anything.
Oh, geez. That's so stressful. Why do we put ourselves through that stress at the end of the year?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know, end of year reports or shopping for people or get-togethers.
I feel like it's the olden days, when it was so cold and people couldn't be outside. They were just man, everybody's always depressed during this time. Okay, let's just make sure we have everyone together and we'll promote warmth in our home and stuff. But then if you don't have that, or it's kind of oh, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and you don't feel like that's what you've got, then you feel extra cold. So I don't know. But I get the concept.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I honestly, when I think of a hearth, a home's hearth fire in the fireplace, I look at my fireplace, which is the nicest thing in this house. And I think I looked it up. This house was made in 1988. And I think the single thing that they renovated was for taking out lights and then putting in really low-hanging chandeliers that hit you in the head and refurbishing the fireplace so it looks like it's got marble, and that's all they did. But never used the fire. That was all on the Zillow listing. It was and look at this fireplace. We renovated one thing.
Well, I remember when you were looking at that place, and for one thing, it looked really big.
Yeah.
And it had a sliding glass out to the deck.
The curtain holder for that sliding glass door fell down.
Oh no.
Yeah, so now there's just no cover on it. But already I used to have the curtains up all the time because Luffy would just climb them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, sliding glass door.
Yep. But I don't know how they do it. They always make it seem bigger than it actually is.
They really know how to not show you things too.
Yeah. That's true. So you're going to have to, oh my God, you're going to have to start looking soon.
Yeah, I have been. Mm-hmm. Not hard enough, because it's at first I was anxious, oh no, what if there's nothing? And but then when I looked, there was actually so many things and they all looked great. I kept opening up tabs, but then I was if I want something, that's the thing that sucks about finding a place, is you have to be the first one.
Yeah.
I checked because Zillow's kind of amazing. They list everything, when this place was listed for rent and then when it was taken off. So we got the lease signed in 5 days of them posting it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just know I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Because you can't be half-hearted either. I send a kind of personalized message.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. No, I was the only person I was definitely the first person to view this house.
Wow.
And yeah, I bought it right away.
Good thing.
But, yeah. I think they listed it like right around Halloween, and I was moved in by the 15th of December.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And that was 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago. Yes. So I've spent 2 Decembers here.
Because the other day I was thinking like, yeah, suck. Mom had to move last year on
3 Decembers.
on Christmas. I was like, wait, no, she didn't. That was last year.
December of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Big things happened for me in December. Like I got Rosie in December.
Mm-hmm.
She'll be 8 in March.
Oh my! What?
Yeah.
Almost 10 years old.
Well, wait. Let's not push it.
Oh.
She'll be 8. She'll be 8 in March.
Well, yeah. I rounded up.
Yeah, you got to stop doing that. Seeing as I'm about to turn 56, so let's just pump the brakes a little bit.
Okay, I'll cool it.
I don't mind getting older, but I kind of mind getting older. Like,
no, I feel that.
It's like if you round up, I'm 60 already, and I'm just like not really ready to be 60 because I
Not
just got
mentally
used to
prepared.
being 55. So
Yeah.
And now that's almost over.
But in 55 versus 60, 5 years is a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
a lot of things happen. So you are not 60.
I know. Well, and I'm not, and I'm not ready to be yet. So I don't know if I'm ready to be. I always thought 55 sounded pretty cool and looks kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
56.
I really understand that because I feel like life is so exciting when you're a kid. It's like 18, even 19 is like, I was 18 1 year ago. And then it's like 22. You graduated college probably if you started when you were 18.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't keep track, honestly. Like I just in my head, if it's the year,
yeah,
if it's the next thing I'm becoming, I'm trying to prepare for that.
Yeah,
so
that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though honestly, I haven't been doing that with 29 because I think 28 was a ripple for me.
Was a ripple?
Yeah, I was like, wow, 28. Okay. I think just now I'm realizing the next one's 29, right? Like that's crazy.
I know. I think that happened to your brother too.
Yeah.
The last time I saw him, he's like, I'm going to turn 36. I'm like, yeah, dude. I know that.
I don't know. I don't know. Does anybody else know about this?
I know. National
Everybody
scandal.
Else like, yeah.
Yeah. We've been preparing for this. Yeah. No, I don't know. I remember, I think when my younger brother, well, I only have one brother, but he's young. He's the baby. I think he turned 40 or 45 or something like that. I'm like, hey, Mom, how does it feel that your youngest kid is like 40? She's like, I don't know.
I know, it's like the weight of so many lives. And it's like, well, it started with you.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. But do you ever have moments like that where you remember maybe in a moment you thought, wow, at this point, I'll be this age. And then when you get to that age, you're like, we did it.
I thought that with the year 2000 when I was a kid. I'm like, how old am I going to be?
What's going to be happening?
Year 2000.
I feel like I do not. The light bulb didn't turn on yet for me. So.
What do you mean?
Like, I remember them writing 2000 on a whiteboard once and thinking, that's crazy. But like, people thought like, oh, when the clocks strike, 2000,
well,
everything will crash.
It. I mean, you were 4, so
yeah.
I don't know how aware you were.
Not at all, is what I'm saying. It's just funny when there's like an event and you were alive for it, but you're like,
yeah.
For me, it was kind of boring.
I know. I think about that with animals. Like they don't know anything. Like they don't really know like what's quote important and what's not. They're just like, just living their lives.
And even if you told them, they wouldn't care.
No.
They'd look at you like, okay, food, please.
Yeah. What's the effect this is going to have on my tuna consumption?
So like, are you going to be giving me less or more?
That's what's really important.
Luffy is like, he's getting so powerful where every time I'm like, okay, boy, like, let me come pick you up. He'll like roll on his back and just be like, who, me? Like, I'm just a little guy.
Meanwhile, he's like 30 inches long.
Oh, he's the biggest guy. He loves to be tall. You saw it in action. Like, you know, cats who like to come up for a pat, he'll just find the tallest surface and then get on the wall to be like, I don't know why. So I got down to his level the other day. And he tried to get taller than me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
that's how it starts. This loser's getting on the ground and he's already tall.
Yeah. Cat psychology. What else is going on?
Well, I've been trying to stretch and move more. Here's like a PSA WOHOs for all of my anxious, intense WOHOs out there. Right now, stand up if you can. Or don't have to stand up, but you have to like lift your body up, feel like there's a string pulling you up and just like stretch a little bit. And I feel like you'll probably feel better. Whatever's going on. Cause you know, okay. Here's a segue. It's kind of like I saw a revolutionary thing on a woman's site who was selling Pilates. I did not buy the Pilates, but I liked her little blurb she had because I was looking up. Well, first off, it just felt like my body was making a lot of noise. Like I've always made, like ever since I can remember, if I squatted, my knees made a noise, but I was used to that. But it really was like, okay, we had watched Queer Eye the other day and the Las Vegas dancer was showing them how to do this. So I did that in the mirror and my body was just making these noises and I was like, this doesn't seem right. And also I had felt like I hurt my ankle or something. And I just get really anxious about stuff like that. And I don't feel in tune with my body at all. And so I was Googling like, I didn't want to Google any like scary things. Like, I don't need to know the name of it. It's just like, what should you do? And this lady on this Pilates site was like, number one thing to not do is to think, oh no, that was a bad idea. Maybe I should just stop walking or stop moving like altogether. And because it's not safe. And I did not realize that I had been doing that where I've been so like, I don't know, like I really don't want to, I don't know, just getting in my own head about it. And so then I just was like looking at some stretches, but I wasn't like trying to sit and watch because it's just never worked for me to sit and watch a video. I was just kind of doing some. And then I was like, okay, free movement time. Just like what stretch feels good to do that you just learned. And you would just be amazed at, well, maybe Mom, I feel like you've been like, you're probably thinking like, yeah, I like, I feel like you, as a kid, I was always like, why do I need to do this? I'm not going to do this, you know? But now I'm like, I get it. And you are right. And yeah, I just feel when I'm starting to feel in a bad mood and snappy, I'm like, okay, what's your back doing? How do your shoulders feel? And then I will instantly feel better.
Wow, that's really good. I think there's so many things I've tried to do because I without revealing too much like that I've ever worried about that before. But I used to dissociate a lot when I was a kid. And so it's kind of been a challenge as an adult, like being in my body, because when I was a kid, being in my body wasn't safe. So it's like, I have to understand, first of all, it's safe to be here in the present moment with my body. And then there's all that like body dysmorphia and like weight stuff and just like, and I have this thing where I don't like recognize myself, like especially in pictures. I'm just like, who's that? People be like, that's you, dope, And yeah, so I'm dissociated up from my own like face or whatever and body. So yeah, I've had to do a lot of different things. But one thing, I had to let go of all that, like, okay, that's weird. I'm a weirdo. I had to let go of all that and like just do stuff that feels good. Like ice skating feels good to me. Running used to feel good. I'd like to start running again. Whatever. There are certain things that feel really, really good. So
Yeah. I feel like we try to what is hard is when you're going through life and then something might be presented as like a solution, and probably it's kind of the idea of the solution you need, but since it in the moment, like ice skating is a fun activity, it's like if that's the activity you're doing, that's the activity you should be doing, anything. Or I guess I really underestimated the power of like, if you want to do it, you'll probably do it. And then if you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, like step aerobics is fun. I think like dance aerobics is kind of fun. So it's like, I think it's, for me, it's anything where I have to focus on what I'm doing like so much that I forget about myself. So I'm just doing it. My body's just doing it. Like one time I went bowling and I just like, I started off really bad, and then somebody gave me like a correction, like how to like correct my form. And then I just got strike after strike after strike after strike. It was like the most amazing thing. And I couldn't replicate it.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I was like in that, like, as long as I just, my feet went to this one place and, I swung in this one way, it worked, And, that was so cool.
Such a great feeling. Like, I wish that there were little like fairies, like if there was a fairy that could just follow you around and just be like, if you do it like this, like just try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, I don't even know how this would work in practice, but I think there's so many concepts we could all understand better if they were just told a little bit differently. And there should be some sort of like, I was thinking about trying to catalog something like that. Like at my middle school, great for teaching like how to be yourself and empathy, but I don't think great at teaching like subjects, because I thought I was bad at math and that I was stupid. And then when I went to high school, they just taught it a different way, and I was like, oh, this makes sense, And yeah, which is kind of funny to think about, since I went to a Montessori school. You think they'd be all about like, oh, you're not figuring it out, like here's a block of beads to figure it out. They stopped doing that after like, I think like elementary school, probably.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how long they keep the abacus around or the beads, counting beads around. Yeah, you're probably not doing that in middle school anymore. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should write that little guidebook. Yeah.
I think there are things that, they might not help you in the moment, but if you kind of like tuck it away for later, maybe you'll have a moment where you're like, hey, there's that thing that was explained this way. Let me try it.
Yeah. That's what I like about like, I'm starting to get more of a community here, and that's what I kind of like about being around people, because they'll be, we're all kind of basically doing the same thing, but there are different ways to do it, And so like I've been doing this thing that works for me where I'll read a little bit in the morning and then I'll write down anything that pops out, and then I meditate and then I see if anything pops out. And that works really great for me. And if I don't do it, it feels a little bit weird. But that's not going to work for everybody. I mean, some people have to like, brush their teeth, get their coffee, and get out, the first thing in the morning. But I'm really fortunate, and I'm looking forward to this next semester because I'll have a little more space in the morning to do things like that. And so I got into the swing of it like during this break. And but anyway, I shared that recently, and somebody was like, "That's a really good way to do it."
Yeah,
maybe I'll try it. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's such a nice thing to hear whenever, like, I never feel like I know what I'm doing. And then when somebody else has said, like, oh, this one time you looked like you knew what you were doing, that stuck with me. And I'm like, It fooled you? That's amazing. And you got inspiration from it? Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, that's what like you were saying the other day that like, you know, you've just been so delighted at how good you feel now that you're walking
Hmm.
and, you know, learning more about your body and like challenging your body more and stuff. And you're actually inspiring me because I'm not
Aw.
as active as you are.
Hmm.
At one time I was a lot more active, but I'm just
Hmm.
sort of like, well, if Mac's doing that, then, you know, maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
And I actually was like the other day, I'm like, what if we ended up both being runners and like running together?
I think I'm like really, I don't know about running. Like I feel like it's one of those things that like I feel like I'm well, okay, first off, I'm a sprinter. Anytime I was ever doing running, well, okay, hold on. Strike all of this from the record. I've been like thinking I've been going off of like child Max assumptions of things and like what he wrote down is like this is how this is. And then I'm realizing like you just didn't know. So like running, I remember I took this class and I was such a bad runner, but it's because I try to just like like I treat it
Right.
like it's sprinting. And this one girl very kindly was like, maybe like try going slower like all the time and then you can finish the race. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try that. Stupid. And I didn't do it. But now I'm thinking like I was about to say I don't think I'll run, but I'm like, well, maybe that would be fun. Like start with a little jog.
Yeah, you really don't have to go fast at all. I mean,
Yeah.
and I was in a group one time and we ran a minute, walked a minute, like,
Mm.
you know, and sometimes it would be 5 miles, which takes freaking forever if you do it like that. But I mean, they're all different ways to be a runner, you know?
Yeah.
So
Maybe we will.
maybe we will. Who knows?
I think about things like that where I'm like, 10 years from now, who knows what I'll be. And like this, it really is like whatever tiny thing you start with now is the first part of the
Mm-hmm.
future thing, but not doing anything is the not doing anything part.
Yeah.
Very eloquent, I know.
I
You
love
can
the way
write
you
that one
said that.
down, attribute it to me.
um,
This does kind of remind me of the movie that we're covering today, because I feel like it's all a bunch of characters living their lives extremely, you know, the exact way they want to do it.
yeah. Well, right. I watched the end of this movie just a little while ago again,
Mm-hmm.
and I got really teary at the
Aw.
end. Yeah, with the Hanadul set, and then his face is the last one because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like they all work together and they
Yeah.
found a solution, and yeah, just I don't know why, it just like choked me up,
It's a
but
really good movie. Like
I'm glad.
I think it's an all-timer, honestly.
It's pretty good. I mean, and I feel like you have to watch it more than once or do some outside research.
I was going to say I did not have time to, because I looked through it and I was like, oh, I want to read all of this, but I didn't have the time to do it. So I was like, maybe mom can explain it for me.
Yeah, I'll try. Well, today, WoHos, we're continuing our J horror and K horror mini series with a movie from last year that I enjoyed a whole lot, EXHUMA. And I'm going to say EXHUMA instead of EXHUMA because you
Exhuma.
don't exhume somebody, you exhume them. So
That's what I was saying.
I don't know. I've heard it pronounced with a really hard H.
Exhuma.
Anyway, EXHUMA short plot summary from IMDb. The process of excavating an ominous grave unleashes dreadful consequences buried underneath.
That's a pretty good description.
I suppose. All right, it's directed by Jung Jae-hyun, screenplay by Jung Jae-hyun, screenplay by Lee Mo-gae, edited by Jung Byun-jin, music by Kim Tae-sung. And it stars Choi Min-sik as Kim Sang-duk, the feng shui master, Kim Go-eun as Lee Hwa-rim, the shaman, Yoo Hae-jin as Young-gun, the undertaker, Lee Do-hyun as Yun Bong-gil, the shaman, or shaman in training I've seen. Did you think he was on the same par as Hwarim, or like was he like in training?
He seemed kind of like a more. I feel like that both explanations are too simplified. It's from what we learned of his backstory. It seems like he was chosen for this, and he doesn't quite understand all of it. But if she points at something, like he'll do it, and he just kind of conveys to her exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah,
he seemed more kind of like a working like dog.
Yeah. And Kim Jae-chul as Bak Ji-young, Hwarim's client. All right, this was released on February 22nd, 2024, and it has a running time of 134 minutes. How did you feel about this runtime, Mac?
Tough, because I do feel like this is 2 movies in one, and maybe they could have done part 1, part 2, like, or not part 1, part 2, but do the first movie, leave opening for a sequel, and then here's the sequel. I think that would have been great, honestly. Like, oh my God, sorry, my Pokemon. I don't know how to use this iPhone, so it's so loud. Okay. It's 2 movies.
Right.
And they could have really, shown us more, about the backstory. Like, we get a little bit about what's his name again? The training. Bongil. Like, we hear about him having an injury or something, and or they're them being worried about him being in sports and about his family. Let's see how they, let's see the past of the 2 guys, and let's see his daughter before the ending. I don't know. I feel like 2 movies, it would have been great. I would have been like, oh, number 2, I bet it'll be great. It could have been the Paddington 2 of Korean horror movies.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but what I kind of like about this is like you think it's one thing and then it like takes a hard turn and it's another thing. And I was just like, oh damn, we're like into a whole nother level of this story.
But that would have been so cool, as like, because that happens literally at the halfway mark, and it takes the punch out of the win of the first part. Because I'm like, I got an hour left in this movie. I know something's about to go down, and you could have even had them hitting that snake and then it being like, oh, what, and then that's for the next movie.
Now, that snake is a Japanese figure. Is that right? The snake with the woman's head?
Yeah, that does kind of look like a yokai. There's a yokai with like a really long head of a woman.
Yeah. Well, this plot was taken from Wikipedia, and I had, 10 pages of notes. I don't know. I was just like taking notes like crazy. But so it's like kind of a combo, but there are 6 chapters in this movie. And the first chapter is called Yin Yang and Bright Spaces. Renowned Korean shaman Hwarim and her protege Bongil are enlisted by a wealthy real estate developer to identify the mysterious illness of the family's newborn son, who cries constantly, like has just been crying since he's been born. Hwarim uncovers the curse to be a grave's call, a vengeful ancestor spirit haunting them. The family's patriarch, Bak Ji-young, entrusts them to relocate the grave to appease the ancestor, his grandfather. Hwarim enlists colleagues, a feng shui master, Kim Sang-duk, and a mortician, Young-gun, with a promise of a huge payday, especially Sang-duk, who's in need of money to pay his daughter's wedding. We are introduced to Sang-duk in the dentures scene.
Yeah, he, like, the very first thing we see him do is put dirt in his mouth, because he's like a geomancer. So he can pick out the best plot of land for a person to be or like, are like ashes spread too, or is it just burial?
I think it's burial.
Yeah, so he picks that one, and then, they realize something is wrong because they exhume this family's long dead relative, and it turns out this was really sweet. It was the thing that was missing was her teeth, her dentures, which her grandson took because he wanted something to remember her by.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sweet.
Yeah.
And like the way I love how earnestly, I don't know, I don't even know what to call it, but this movie is earnest. I feel like though some things are done wink, wink, nudge, nudge, it's never thinking of any of them as being like a parody, I guess. It really feels serious in a very earnest and kind of wholesome way a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, and I read that, real geomancers probably wouldn't, put dirt in their mouths or whatever. But that was just a quick, like, cinematic way to sort of demonstrate like what he was going for. And what he realized was that, there was something wrong with the ground and, where the person was buried. But he goes over to the little boy and he said, "She'll be beside you all the time."
Yeah, and then like all the families coming and hugging the crying child. It's like what they're really depicting is a family dealing with, loss and coming together. Like that's what's encouraged, which is really nice.
Yeah. Chapter 2 is Nameless Grave. Sang-duk specializes in selling burial locations for the wealthy, while Young-gyun owns a funeral home. During their first encounter with Ji-young, Sang-duk becomes wary when Ji-young insists on cremating the grave, which is not grave, cremating the
casket,
which is located in a remote mountain near the North Korean border. Okay, so that's all really important too. So the spirit is tormenting the firstborn sons. So that includes Ji-young and then the baby as well. And Ji-young just, has nightmares and the baby, can't get any peace whatsoever. But the fact that it's near the North Korean border will be very important. But the fact that it's on a remote mountain, I mean, it's really arduous to get up there. So it's not like people are stopping by the gravesite, very often.
I think this whole scene is done so well because the beginning is so fun, getting to know everybody. If you are into anime right now, one of the most popular shows is the show Dan to Dan, which is like, I was telling Alan about this movie and I was like, it's like Dan to Dan because, or Don to Don. And it's a really kind of cheeky and funny, but also very sweet and earnest show of this high school girl and this high school boy who are, working to get rid of like spirits and aliens. But just the way it approaches the supernatural, I feel like is genuinely like you see what is very cool about it. And so getting to know that from the main characters is cool. And then the shift in tone when they go up to this mountain, because you're just seeing Choi Min-sik's character realize like, okay, there's something very weird here. And every little detail is just a little thing to just add to the creep factor of like, why do they want this right now? What they're so rich. Why is this on a mountain in the middle of nowhere? Why is it so close to North Korea? And he just has a bad feeling. And then even the shaman is like, well, how did you not know about this place? And he's like, I only pick holy lands.
Yeah, auspicious places. Yeah, so he says that he can't do this job. Like, and he's just freaked out for some reason. There's also the coordinates of the specific location, like on the gravestone, which is a little
very
odd
weird
too. So, Sang-duk backs out, sensing sinister energy. He calls the plot vile. He keeps saying vile. I don't know if that's the real translation, but I like that word.
The reveal of it is really good too because it has this like, oh, like moving up. And then when you see the grave, it's literally just headstone.
Yeah.
Earth, nothing.
He calls the plot vile. No humans should have been buried there. He says if they mess with the wrong grave, there will be hell to pay. But Ji-young convinces him to reconsider by doubling the payout for the job. However,
and they're like, oh, the sun.
Yeah, of course. And Hwa-rim convinces them she can perform a ritual while the grave is being dug out. to avoid the curse. And Ji-young tells them about a famous monk named Gisune, who, in order to assuage grave robbers, provided the grave location for his grandfather.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, okay, Gisune, that sounds Japanese to me.
And also, it actually, now I didn't realize it until now, it's very similar to Kitsune, which is fox. And Ki and Gi would be the same character anyway. So it's kind of, you can see how that could happen. Or
that
they're the same character,
annoying
but you
to
put
me.
some. What?
I didn't know Kitsune. I mean, I looked it up, but I didn't know when I was watching the movie about the Kitsune part. But I'm like, Gisune sounds Japanese. And I feel like every Korean would be like, that's not a Korean name.
Yeah. And they're just kind of like, that's a weird name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's even like, Hwarem knows Japanese. So they like make a point to show that, like in the very first scene, the stewardess assumes she's Japanese and she tells her, oh, by the way, I'm Korean. So, that's like the theme of the movie,
Hwarem and Bungyil perform the ritual, which involves 5 grave diggers born under the sign of the pig and 5 pig carcasses, which will absorb the bad spirits. The excavation proceeds smoothly.
Got a lot of
How about this how about this ritual, Mac?
I liked it a lot, and you know what? I think what is the movie I'm thinking of?
The Wailing?
The Wailing. I love the scene in The Wailing. However, this one was so much better explained, and thus I was able to, but in a way that you still had to kind of put the pieces together, and I understood what they were doing. Whereas and I guess it's the point, but in The Wailing, you kind of can't appreciate all of the, ritual because you're just like, aha, what's going on? They're screaming and, it's cool. But I liked knowing like, okay, she's like, they're making all this noise to direct the spirit to go to these pigs so that it takes out all of its like violence on that. Okay, this makes sense. And so she's kind of channeling it then when she's cutting the pigs and stuff. So I liked that. I liked being able to think, okay, this is, but it was still very powerful. Like she's still like, it's still so sensory overload, but in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much like, people kind of generally know about these shamanistic rituals, because I feel like in The Wailing, the family is kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And here there was an explanation and people still are a little bit like
shaken,
disconcerted. I mean, it's, it'll make you nervous. I mean, you're dealing with like angry spirits and stuff.
And somebody running around with a knife.
Yeah.
I think it's done, all the little uneasiness is done well of all these people who don't go running for the hills, but I like that this movie shows you that everybody around is like, this is scary. Like, this is unnerving because it's not normal. And I like that. I don't think that's always done.
Yeah, agreed. The excavation proceeds smoothly, but when cleaning up, one of the grave diggers severs the head of a human-headed snake, which triggers a rainstorm.
This freaked me out. The little head, it was so small, And
it was like just so fast. Like,
yeah.
Blink and you're going to miss it.
But there was this big scream. And then we see Hwarem like touch her ear, and we know she's got some frequency because she did that with the baby too. So
Young Kyun insists on cremating the coffin once the rain stops, so they store it at a nearby ward, even though, so it's bad luck to have a cremation when it's raining because the spirit has trouble getting to the afterlife. So, but like the Korean American guy didn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
but it seemed like everybody around them did know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the funeral director probably does, because I'm sure families would be like, well, you can't cremate.
Yeah.
On a rainy day. The local custodian, hearing rumors of a treasure in the tomb, greedily opens the coffin and thus accidentally releases the vengeful entity inside, Ji-young's grandfather. The spirit flies past Hwarem.
I loved the scene with the old man sitting at the chair and he's like, Father, like, seeing his dad. is kind of eerie.
So the spirit has been released and, like, I guess, flies to the U.S. And and then that then that part happens.
Yeah, I liked that because, this guy is so old, but he's talking like he's a little kid. And it's so interesting to think of this spirit being such a horrifying thing, but that there is somebody who's like, yeah, like, come on in. But he does look like he's kind of infirmed, like he doesn't really know what's going on. And then but even when he opens up his window, it just rushes past him and he like doesn't, or he's like, Father?
Well, the spirit is then like stuffing his face.
Yes,
so,
yeah. I remember. Okay.
Yeah. So, right. So for 100 years, what we're going to learn is that for 100 years, the spirit has like not been at rest because like, it's uncomfortable. It's like in this inauspicious place and nobody has come to visit him or anything like that. And, but the way it's depicted is he's starving and he's like dehydrated.
Yeah.
So we learn that spirits need to have the windows and doors open for them, but they can call you on the phone.
Yeah.
The grandfather, revealed to be a Japanese collaborator during the Korean occupation era, is tormented by his improper burial. Sung-duk cremates the coffin before the entity can kill the baby, abolishing the curse. Well, before that, he kills the father, mother, and Ji-young.
Yeah.
And the only one left is the baby.
Yeah. And his hand is right above it.
It's so scary.
I loved the whole scene with him on the phone talking to the spirit. That was such a classic, like, I don't know how it's going to go, but it's still great when like, then, he opens up he doesn't really, he goes for the window. The spirit kind of pushes him to open it. And then, you just hear him laughing on the phone. Like, actually, it was I. It was so classically, like, just so evil,
Yeah. Yeah, really great. Impersonating Sung-duk. All right, chapter 4 is Divine Retribution. Months later, Young Gyun informs Sung-duk about a gravedigger who becomes disturbed after killing the snake. Right. He revisits the gravesite and discovers the head of the, quote, snake, along with a second burial site for this huge coffin, which was buried standing up.
Yeah.
It's a double internment. They keep saying that over and over.
Double internment. Exhume.
He enlists Hwa-rim, Bungil, and Young Gyun to dispose of the coffin. The four excavate it and rest at a temple where Hwa-rim learns about Gisune, who turns out to be a powerful Japanese shaman named Murayama Junji, who has the moniker of the Fox.
Kitsune, which are bad luck, I guess, because every time they see a CGI fox, they're like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah. But I like the part, well, before everything kicks off, the part at the temple, I just think is like so sweet.
Yes. Yeah. They're all, and they're enjoying their time together. Anytime we get like a look into them just as people, I like it. Even when they're kind of called back into it after a little bit, the shaman in training grabs Hwa-rim, who's like at like a cycle class, and she looks right at the camera because right at the camera is looking at him. Mm-hmm. And there's we haven't talked about yet, a lot of like the way that they do scenes where it feels as if all these moments are happening at concurrent times, even throughout time, and that people are feeling it all at the same time too. And I love that. I feel like there's a lot of historic moments in your life where you might feel instantly like a connection to you when you were younger, or another person who had a very similar experience to you or something. And that kind of spirituality, I don't know what to call it, but I definitely believe that that's true.
So they're at the temple. Chapter 5 is the illusion. That night, Bungil witnesses an Oni killing the temple priest and the local pig farmer along with his pigs. Now, this part, I thought, it's very scary, but it's also very cool. So the spirit is basically standing on the monk, standing on his chest. And Bongil is like sleeping right next to him. And he witnesses this. And he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like that whole sequence. And what is he saying there? Like, I need my clothes. I took away my clothes or something like that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. He's upset. He's almost like he's like throwing a little tantrum as he's like stomping on this monk's chest.
And he needs, I think he's like expecting to have because he's like a magnificent samurai. It's like, why am I here around all these pigs and with filthy humans?
Right. Hwarim and Bongil find the coffin ripped from the inside, and Hwarim is ambushed by the Oni, who is revealed to be a samurai.
And they had a seal around it, but they look up and he just fucking went through the roof. I was like, okay.
Bongil gets injured and possessed. Well, he doesn't just get injured.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah. The samurai like reaches in to grab his liver.
What's the significance of the liver?
I don't know. He keeps saying it's like a tribute or something.
I don't know what's up with the liver. You think it'd be heart or something.
At the end, he says to Choi Min-sik's character, like, "Are you going to be my servant, or can I have your liver?"
Yeah.
So I guess it is like, you can be my servant, or you can die.
Yeah.
By me taking out your liver.
But the liver is so specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. WoHos get in touch. So Bongil is, severely injured and possessed, and the others witness the Oni turn into a ball of fire flying back to the mountain.
Oh, that part is so cool. When they're all like everybody just kind of has to stare at it and it keeps looking at them. And then it's like all the events. It's kind of like, is it like reading their minds or something? And just getting a gist of, and I love that everybody has a whole different view of everything that happened and then their own history that, comes with it too. Like he hits, all of our 4 main characters and then is like, okay, got it. And then flies up in the air.
Yeah. And I think that effect was real because when it comes around like closest to the camera, the leaves on the tree are singed.
Wow.
So I don't think
it looked
that was
real.
Yeah. And the director said he wanted to use as little CGI as possible.
Yeah.
So I think it was a real effect. Hwarim investigates the Oni's origin through the possessed Bongil. Sangduk returns to the grave and finds the samurai dormant on the coordinates written on the grandfather's tombstone. It is revealed that during the Japanese occupation of Korea, the Imperial Japan... This is written really weird, sorry. It is revealed that during the Japanese occupation of Korea, Imperial Japan ordered their shamans to put multiple large orange... Okay, yeah. All right. So this is an urban legend I read, actually, that during the Japanese occupation of Korea, the Japanese put all these iron stakes in the ground because they were contemptuous of the concept of feng shui, and they were trying to interrupt the spiritual energy.
Ah.
But it could have been that they were just trying to mark hiking trails.
Yeah.
So,
that's very specific, a very...
But I mean, this movie takes it that the Japanese were trying to disrupt the life force, basically, that's in the earth. And so they had inserted all of these iron stakes. And there are a bunch of iron stakes that are at the Buddhist temple. And that's because a bunch of patriots, had gone around taking all these stakes out of the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And the samurai Oni is actually the guardian spirit that was tasked by Gisune to protect one of the spikes. Okay. This is the coolest part. The reveal of that, I think, is the very, very coolest part of this whole thing. So Sangduk, Hwarim, and Younghyun devise a plan to unearth the relic when the creature rises after midnight. And that's all pretty cool, too, because one, they've discovered that when the monster attacked Bongil, who is covered in like Buddhist like tattoos. It could only go into this one section of his body where there were no tattoos. So they're like, got it. So they like just write all these like verses, all over their bodies. And the creature has demanded sweet fish and melon. That's what it really wants. So when they're driving back up the mountain in the back, you see all these like fish in these tanks and stuff.
I loved that. All those fish. That looked so cool.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. Hua-Rim will distract the samurai while the others dig the grave. A vision reveals the fox embedding a katana inside a decapitated samurai's body, turning the samurai into a Sukumugami. Can you say it?
Sukumugami?
Yeah. And Ji Yong's grandfather's grave serving as a cover for the relic. Sang Duk realizes that the samurai himself is the iron spike, and since he is represented by fire in feng shui, he must be vanquished by the element of water and wood.
That scene is so cool. Like he's, everything's all coming back to him and linking into place. And while all this action is happening, he's making, stuff wet or like getting the fire and whatnot. I like all that.
So the fire, the fire and the metal are wrapped up with the samurai. And so he has to use wet wood in order to conquer the samurai. And he is like bloody from the attack. So he just uses his own blood to make the wood wet. And then when he like hits the samurai, he's able to conquer him.
I have seen a lot of things recently, Japanese things, where it's like blood is specifically used for like, not only are they fighting with it, it's like it's turning into weapons that they can use. And I get, I wish blood wasn't called blood in English, because what blood is in Japanese is chi, and that sounds great. And so then it makes sense. Okay, that your chi, you're putting on things, and it's seen, a lot as like kind of like your life force that you're using to fight and whatnot. But if I just hear, oh, they're using blood, I'm like, oh, no. Get that away from me. So
it's P in Korean. It's
really?
It's the hard P.
Hard P. That's better. Again, blood.
Injured, he faints, but later regains consciousness at a hospital.
I love this part. Because while
the others by his bedside.
You think he's dying, and he's like, well, I've always thought of life as like, it's just my time, and so it's just my time to go, oh, wait, my daughter's wedding. And then he comes. I think that's real. I think stuff like that does happen.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. And then one thing we haven't mentioned is that his friend, the guy, I keep messing up his name, but the guy who's the funeral director is really religious. Yeah. And so he's praying this whole time, and he's just like, please let him get through the surgery and all this stuff.
I love that character. He was like a great comedic relief of like, he was kind of the voice of always like, guys, like, but this is going to suck and I don't want to do it. We always need that energy. Whereas, because he's really stuck around 3 people who are like, let's get it. Let's get the spirit. But
then he kind of comes through in, what's the expression you guys say, in clutch?
Oh yeah. Comes in clutch.
He comes in clutch because Choi Min-sik is like freaking out, and he's like, I'm here. And like, what one person can't do, 2 people can do. And then when you get 3, you have a braided cord that can defeat evil or something like that. And then that's from like Ecclesiastes or something. So he like says the verse perfectly, and then he goes, amen. So
that's what I love, is these 4 people are so different, and they're all using what they know to come out in the end. Pretty great.
Oh, I know. I just got goosebumps. It's so cool. A few months later, the group attends Sang-duk's daughter's wedding. But this is this is probably 30 seconds, but I love it so much because first of all, you get to see a traditional, Korean wedding, which is really
Crazy.
like a spectacle.
Yeah.
And they're taking the photograph at the end and they're like, family photograph coming up. And Sung-duck is like, come on, you guys, like get into in the picture. And they're all like, it's family. Like, why would we be in the picture?
Oh.
And then they agree to be in the family picture. And then the photographer like moves them around perfectly.
Yeah, so that they're actually integrated in. So sweet.
And then that's the last shot of the movie is like the four of them one at a time. And that's when I got all teary. Well, here's some trivia, Mac.
Okay.
According to the director, the actors studied real rituals from shamans in order to accurately portray them in this film. A leading actress, Kim Go-eun, who starred as Hwa-rim, a shaman, said in an interview that she was a bit worried about being possessed or other supernatural things she might experience. This was because everything she did on the scene, praying, exorcism, for example, was exactly the same as real shamans would do. But a real shaman who assisted production of the film assured her that she didn't need to be concerned of such.
Aw, that's nice that they got somebody to be like, don't worry, you're not invoking anything right now.
This actor got so many awards for this performance.
She deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually
really
looked her up because I thought she was familiar. And she seemed like an amazing person. And this was how somebody described her, which I thought was very cool. Wait, where did that go? Also, she has a pixie cut now and looks great. Director Jung Ji-woo commented on Kim saying, "She is naturally curious and brave. She's strong in a sense that she isn't influenced easily. She doesn't do things just because everyone else does it."
Yeah. The idea of casting evil spirits into pigs has a long history and has been present in many cultures. As just one example, in Matthew 8, verses 28 to 34 in the Bible, Jesus cast demons out of 2 possessed men and into a herd of pigs who then jump into the sea.
Wow.
According to the director, main characters' names were originated from patriotic martyrs of South Korea who fought against Japanese colonial rule named Kim Sang-duck, Ko Young-gun, Lee Hwa-rim, and Yoon Bong-gil. And I was trying to find out, since there's like mostly 4 main elements in the feng shui, if each character's name might represent like one of the elements, but I couldn't find it on the internet. In English, anyway.
Maybe nobody else has figured it out yet.
I don't know if that was intended. I mean, if he's using these names as like the names of martyrs, maybe that's
but like what do you think character-wise, though, off the top of our heads? I feel like Choi Min-sik definitely has to be Earth.
Yes.
Then fire, would that be
Bong-gil, maybe.
Okay. Then water.
Mr. Ko.
Okay.
So that leaves
wind?
Metal. For the shaman. I don't know. That works.
Yeah. We'll have to start. We'll have to make our own thread.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me before that you had learned a little bit about Choi Min-sik.
So I was just looking up all the actors and just wanted to get a little read on them. And I was like, I've been a long time fan of Mr. Min-sik's work, but I was like, never read his wiki. Well, listen to this. In 3rd grade of elementary school, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis and told he could not be cured. However, he claims to have regained his health after spending a month at a Buddhist temple in the mountains. So I love the way that is written, because that's like, he claims that this happened. And it does kind of sound like you'd say like, well, my mom told me that I actually got all better when I went to a Buddhist temple for a month.
It does sound like that.
Like he was in 3rd grade and they were like, take this kid out of school. I mean, maybe they did, and maybe it worked, and that's awesome. I just love that. And I love that, thinking of him going around thinking like, I'm not saying it's not true. It's just the way that's written was like, we cannot confirm or deny the validity of his claim. But he did say that that's what happened.
I like that too. But also tuberculosis. Oh my God.
I know. How
this
scary.
guy's not like that. He's not ancient.
Well, they said when he was in 3rd grade.
Well, I know. How old is he?
62.
I mean, I didn't realize that tuberculosis was like a big deal, that recently.
That reminds me, a friend of mine, online friend, randomly dropped that he had pneumonia. And I was like, are you okay? Like, I feel like whenever pneumonia is talked about, I mean, he's not like an old person or very young either. But I remember I flashed back to a moment in elementary school. There was a girl a grade higher than me, and we just were told she was sick. And I think they didn't want to tell us anything just in case something bad did happen. But then when they knew she was going to get better, they were like, okay, guys, she's had pneumonia and she almost died. Like that's, and they were like, you got to all draw cards. They didn't say it like that, but I remember my teacher very firmly being like, it really is no small thing that she, got through. So that's why we all have to help her, and like write her these cards and stuff. So I feel like pneumonia is always like, uh-oh.
Jeez.
But so then when my friend just was like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, no, you don't just got it. If you're like, I don't think you can just be like, I got pneumonia. Like, I think you have to be. Like,
I mean, some people end up in the hospital, but not everybody does. And I feel like your aunt has had it like 5 times or something.
Diagnosed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's the type of person who never gets sick, but then when she gets sick, she gets like,
Mega
mono
sick.
Or something.
Yeah.
All right. What does Letterboxd have to say about it? Well, Mike Flanagan, I really dug this. See what I did there? Old Boy's Choi Min-sik leads the cast in this ambitious Korean horror film about exhuming the wrong grave and the ghastly consequences. What seems like a straightforward twist on an exorcism/possession movie has more up its sleeve, though, and was much larger in scope than I anticipated. Smart writing, good performances, and some terrific effects elevate this ghost story into something far more modern and original than I expected.
I think that's a pretty great review.
Good going, Mike Flanagan.
We like it. We approve.
I mean, if this movie making thing doesn't pan out, you might become a professional reviewer.
Yeah.
Wylick Pilot gave it 5 stars. Wow. Other than The Wailing, I'm hard-pressed to think of a horror movie relying on Asian folklore that manages to feel so epic. A story that spans generations and national loyalties, digging to the heart of a conflict the rest of the world had mostly forgotten, and a stalwart group of friends stuck in the middle of it all. The filmmaking is fairly straightforward and natural, but this feels like a conscious choice, allowing the mystical elements to stand out from the mundanity of their background. It's thrilling to watch these 4 individuals, quite different in nature and temperament, begin to fray and crack as shit hits the fan. Each of them copes with the supernatural in their own way, and each of these portrayals provides insight into human psychology's interactions with the occult. I'm no expert on the folklore depicted here, but it all felt very faithful and respectful. If you're a fan of Asian horror, this is a must-see.
How would you compare it to The Wailing?
I love The Wailing, and I like this movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I have to rewatch this movie and The Wailing. The way I feel right now on January 4th, 2025 is that EXHUMA definitely seems more like user-friendly, like intuitive, and I would more readily show, I think, EXHUMA to somebody than The Wailing. But if I was to show you The Wailing, I would be thinking very, like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, if you don't like it, you just don't get it. But I would be like, you're ready. You're ready to handle The Wailing now. You know what I mean?
I love that actor. His name escapes me right now. The lead in The Wailing.
Yes,
and also I just love the humor in The Wailing.
It felt more. It feels like very Korean humor from what I have seen. Yeah,
and I don't know. Maybe it's because I saw it before, but that also does something. Like when there's rain in that one also, and there's like almost like a very bad crash in that. And you see the spirit of the woman or the woman spirit, whatever she is.
It's like,
I think from that point on, you're in a different movie again.
yeah.
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 So, I mean, if you want to spend a day watching Korean films,
you can just watch those two, and actually that would be your day.
Beanie Kid gave it a 0.5 star. Dude, just save yourself the 2 hours and do anything else for real. The story is so bad. The characters' connections to each other is the worst, like for real. There was nothing good about that movie other than a ghost turning into a fireball. That shit was funny.
What? For real?
For real.
They said for real, but I don't think that didn't feel like for real. That felt like, I feel like if you feel that way, you must have watched this on in the background and then be like, what's going on? I don't get it. This, whatever. I hate this movie.
I don't know if you really want to say for real twice.
Yeah. I'm going to start thinking that maybe you're not.
Tae-Joo-ha gave it a 0.5 star. Overhyped movie left me with blue balls.
So much stuff happened. I feel like actually all the things happened.
That's such a gross way to put it, though.
Blue balls, yeah.
Left me with blue
Were you trying
balls.
to fuck the movie? Like what?
What is wrong
can you
with
chill?
you? Just watch the movie.
This is not what I ordered. They were trying to kill it. I thought this was EXHUMA. I don't know. That can't turn into a... Sorry. Cut that. What was I going to say? I was looking at the Wikipedia. I did not realize this was the 6th highest grossing film in Korea of all time.
Yeah, from last year.
Isn't that amazing that a movie that just really makes you think what's going to happen in the future? If a movie made in 2024 can top like everything, and I think it's deserved. And I man, to anybody who has not witnessed Korean cinema, I just got to tell you, I just feel like they do it better. They treat it with more respect. I know that the schlocky stuff gets made, but when people come to play in terms of making a movie that's like, oh, I want this to be taken seriously, you must take it seriously, because they so much is put into it that I don't always feel from other like American directors. And it's not, I wouldn't even say it's an American director's fault. It seems like it is treated as like a, yeah, go make us proud kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like it's an art form. I mean, I don't think you saw all the behind the scenes for the host.
No.
But I mean, every big Korean director came to like wish Bong like good luck,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like this is all like we're representing Korea, with this movie, so it better be good.
Yeah. And I just feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't watch it. You just got to watch something, please.
I mean, and I know The Wailing took a couple of years, like maybe 2 or 3 years to make. I'm not sure about this one, but I had that in the back of my mind that it took 2 years, but I'm not sure. I might have made that up. Lalia gave it a 0.5 star. Some demon obsessed with liver.
I got questions about the liver too, Lalia. So actually, of all the 0.5 star reviews, you're the most valid.
So how would we rate this?
Liver. I give it 5 livers, personally.
5?
But
out of 5?
I'm going to say 4.5 because I think I need to watch it again. I've only watched it the one time today. So I think I need more time with it.
I'm going to give it 5. Just kidding.
No, yeah, you're like, no, me too.
Yeah, it's real good. I'm trying to think like.
But you just like it though.
I mean, The Wailing is, I don't know. It just means so much to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also you've been with The Wailing longer,
Yeah, I might have
had time to.
And I feel like I've seen this like 2.5 times, and I think I did some outside research, and I feel like I'm just starting to get it. So yeah, I think it is more accessible in a way, But in another way, it's like, if you don't understand about feng shui and you don't understand about like well, you should know about the Japanese occupation of Korea, but I mean, if you don't, it's like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal? And why, if this guy, you didn't maybe get it that this guy was a traitor to like the Korean people. Yeah. So you have to work at it.
Yeah. If it's, I feel like, movies made in different, especially, like we just said, like a country that's trying to be like, look, like, here's how much we're putting into this film. It's like, it's going to feel Korean. And I think you do yourself a disservice if you have any questions about like, this literally makes no sense to me. It's like, well, because you just don't know what it is. And then when you do, you'll be like, oh, and then you'll find something cool about life.
I think what's kind of cool about The Wailing is that, for me, one of the things is like, for somebody who doesn't really believe in the devil, that last shot in The Wailing gets me every time.
Yeah.
And I think it's genuinely scary. And I don't feel like this one is all that scary. I mean, the sheer size of the samurai is very scary.
Yeah, I thought about you.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought about you going, ugh!
Yeah. That is scary to me.
Yeah,
too.
but I think you're right. I was never scared watching. I actually wasn't scared at all watching this. I'm kind of a big boy. And I was proud because even that, like, the one yelling thing didn't get me. Like, you know what? Suddenly there's just a voice screaming. I liked that, though. I thought that scene was good. But yeah, this movie, it makes me want to show it to Alan because I'm like, it's actually not that scary.
Yeah, he could watch it. For sure. All right. What have we learned from this movie?
Count on other people.
Definitely.
Yes. What you cannot do alone, you might be able to do with somebody else. And also, our differences are what make us special, So if you, kind of what you were saying earlier about realizing you have to just be like, who cares what people think? I'm going to do this thing. I've been trying to think of like, okay, what if there was a narrator? Like, okay, I'm about to go a few steps away, but stay with me. So Stephen King's Under the Dome, right? It's written from a total omniscient viewpoint. So if you look at like an omniscient person making your story, it's like the other characters don't matter. All right. It's like whatever thing that you think matters, like what if this person thinks this of me or this, that, it's like only you are caring about that. And then, everybody else is going to go live their life and do their story. And you're just not going to do stuff that makes you happy because you're like, well, this person might think I'm dumb. And you're playing yourself. The person reading that would be like, well, they should just do what makes them happy. Right. So.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel like that's a good reminder.
And not only are you going to be being yourself, it's not going to be in spite of it all. Like, it's not going to be everybody like throwing tomatoes at you, being like, boo. Some people might, but then whatever thing you're good at or ideas you bring that are uniquely yours are going to make other people be like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And also, vice versa.
I feel like this movie is saying, be good at something.
Yeah.
Like, have a skill, like have something to bring to the table.
I agree.
I mean, nobody in this movie is like dead weight, like her sisters that she brings in, like they've got stuff going on. And I don't know. Yeah. So I that's what I was kind of thinking of at the end of this movie. Like, they're all different, but they're all really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of can work together like that.
It kind of reminds me, there's this anime that's also very popular, Demon Slayer. And one of the biggest themes in that is that every job is important. Like, you're following these like young people fighting demons with swords, but then who makes those swords and like, what are they doing? And, then you'll have somebody who's a sword fighter be like, well, this puny person, all they can do is just make my sword. And it's like, well, you can't make it. So how are you going to fight the demon without the sword, buddy? And I like that message a lot. It's kind of like, maybe some things are flashier or something, but like literally nothing can happen from just like one person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some things, but you get what I'm saying, WOHOs.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Would we watch it again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a favorite scene?
I really like the scene. I mean, I like the introductory scene. And like I said, the one that stands out is when they're first going to the grave, and just it does feel off. Like, and they do that without, ooh, spooky. It's just from the acting and the set design and like the music. I like that. How about you?
I kind of like it when they're all together, like in the restaurant, and they're talking about how much money they're going to make.
Yeah. That should be in every, I feel like that is in every Korean film.
Yeah.
His characters being like, we are about to get loaded.
I also kind of like a scene we didn't talk about a whole lot, but it's when the main character, or the client, I mean, dies.
Yeah.
And he...
So sweaty.
Yeah, very sweaty. He's like drinking all this water, and then he like turns his neck,
Oh, yes. And then
too much around.
Like falls down.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I was like, Joyman sick, move to the left so he doesn't have to turn around to look at you. That's in my head. I was like, quick, go to his front. But then he would reverse the other way.
Yeah, and the whole lead up to that where the demon like, tricks the guy, I thought that was really, really clever.
Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of like, I feel like nothing stays hidden for too long. Like a scene like that, we already know, okay, he's possessed, and then we get to the next thing very quickly. This movie doesn't waste your time. Even though it's 2 hours long, it does not waste your time.
Nope. Who wins the You Fool award?
I guess the granddad?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Don't
I guess
betray
whoever...
your country. Yeah,
and I guess whoever trusted Gisune, that was pretty foolish too.
Yeah.
But we don't get to talk to we don't see any of those people. None of the main characters are fools. I respect them all.
The guy who is he lets he opens up the casket.
That guy.
Yes.
He is the biggest fool.
He's the biggest fool.
They really got that great guy to be like, let me get that money.
I want the treasure. like what are you, a cartoon?
You're gonna open up a casket?
Like
That's crazy.
It's all like carved like out of bamboo or something. It's like, it looks really fucking freaky, dude. Like, don't open that up.
Don't you think they would have pilfered it first if there was anything good to get?
You're so dumb. You're such a fool.
You're such a fool. You are our fool.
I don't even think he has a name.
Probably just extra number Gravedigger 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's all he deserves because he is the biggest fool. Well, thank you, Mac, for having this conversation with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for
EXHUMA.
suggesting it.
And thank you, WOHOs, for joining us and for all your support. It means the world of horror to us, truly. Next time, Mac and I will discuss Mac's J-horror pick.
KURONEKO.
Oh!
Yeah, I've never seen it, and you've said it's really good. So I was
gosh, I'm excited. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I was like, if we're not going to go on the decade thing, just like, yeah, that is the next classic Japanese horror movie I want to watch. So.
Oh, wow. I'm really excited.
It's Christmas Part 2.
Oh, wow. Remember, WOHOs, we love you, and don't go into the basement.
Yay, we did it.